I'm Christy. I'm sitting in my dark apartment, the silence heavy around me. The memory of my mother's words, "You just know how to count," still rings in my ears. It's been a long journey to get to this point, a journey that started with a simple spreadsheet and a question I'd been avoiding for far too long. Let me take you back to that fateful October morning. The light in Portland, where I live, had that thin silver quality, as if the sky was holding back something precious. It was a Tuesday, and I was sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of black coffee too hot to drink in front of me, and my laptop open to two tabs. One tab was for a quarterly reconciliation for a client who ran a chain of art galleries. The other tab was a nameless spreadsheet that had been my silent companion for 5 years. I opened that spreadsheet, just like I did every first of the month, and typed in the figures: my sister Lily's rent, her car insurance, and her tuition installment. The same numbers, month after month, for 3 long years. The total in cell B63 read $252,000. It was a staggering amount, but it was a number I'd grown accustomed to. As I closed the tab and opened the client reconciliation, I felt a strange sense of unease. The coffee had gone cold, and as I wrapped my hands around the mug, I was transported back to another kitchen. A kitchen filled with grief and responsibility. I was 15 years old, 2 weeks after my father's sudden passing. My father was a hard-working mechanic, and his absence left a huge void in our family. Our kitchen in the small townhouse had peeling wallpaper and a leaky faucet that my father had never gotten around to fixing. His chair at the head of the table remained untouched, a silent reminder of his absence. My mother, a kind-hearted but often overwhelmed woman, sat beside me. She took my hand and said, "Christy, you're the strong one. You're just like your dad. I need you to help me keep this family together." Lily was only 5 at the time, and she didn't fully understand what had happened. I looked into my mother's eyes and said, "Okay," and from that moment on, I took on the role of the responsible one. Over the next 24 years, I became the rock of the family. I'd stop by Mrs. Jenkins' apartment on my way to work. She was an 83-year-old widow with a bad back, and I'd pick up her groceries every Tuesday. She'd always tell me, "You're such a good girl, Christy." And I'd smile, but inside, I was starting to feel the weight of everyone's needs. One day in the office break room, I met my colleague Sarah. She was heating up her lunch in the microwave when she said, "My daughter Emily finally got a job." I stopped paying for her phone bill in March, and it took her until May to realize she could handle it on her own. She was furious at me at first, but then she got a promotion. I listened, thinking Lily's situation was different. She needed more time, or so I thought. Then one Wednesday, my mother called me while I was sitting in my car in the parking garage, eating a quick lunch. Her voice was warm, but I could sense the underlying need. "Christy, Lily found a great apartment near her college. The only problem is her credit isn't good enough, and the landlord wants a co-signer." I cut her off. "No," I said firmly. There was a long silence on the line. Then my mother said, "I don't understand you, Christy. Lily is your sister. She's trying. She just needs a little more time." I replied, "My name is not nothing, Mom." And with that, I ended the call. I sat in my car looking at the concrete pillar in front of me. For the first time, I noticed the graffiti painted on it, P3. I sat there for 8 minutes thinking about my decision. Then I opened my autopay app and started canceling all the payments I'd been making for Lily. It felt liberating and terrifying. Over the next few days, things started to change. Lily left a voicemail, confused about why the automatic payments hadn't gone through. I listened to it once, then set my phone down. I realized I'd been so focused on taking care of everyone else that I'd forgotten about myself. On the 5th day, my mother called again. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was filled with worry about Lily's lease. I didn't call her back. I was beginning to understand that sometimes saying no is the only way to take control of your own life. On the 7th day, Sarah noticed a change in me. "Did you do something different?" she asked. I told her I'd canceled some subscriptions. She looked at me with a newfound understanding and nodded. It was the first time in a long time that someone had really seen me. On the 9th day, I drove to the grocery store, but didn't go in right away. I sat in my car, staring at the entrance, realizing I had no idea who I was when I wasn't solving someone else's problems. I thought about everything I'd done for others: the groceries for Mrs. Jenkins, the financial support for Lily, the constant calls to my mother. I sat there for 11 minutes. Then I went inside and bought exactly what I wanted: fresh flowers, a nice bottle of wine, and gourmet pasta. On the 11th day, a call came from a bank. It was about an auto loan account where I was a co-signer for Lily. I told them they had the wrong number. It was a simple statement, but it felt powerful. I realized I'd been saying, "wrong number," to myself for years, living a life that wasn't truly mine. I started researching how to remove myself as a co-signer. It was going to be a long and difficult process, but I was determined. Then my mother called from the parking lot of my office building. She asked me to come downstairs and talk. I looked out the window and saw her car. But I said, "I'm in the middle of something, Mom. I'll call you later," and I didn't. I finally understood there's a difference between absence and abandonment. For the first time, I was choosing to take care of myself. On the 15th day, my mother stopped calling. Lily sent a text that read, "I guess we know where your priorities are." I read it and quietly set my phone down. Oddly enough, I was starting to feel peaceful. I went for a run for the first time in 2 years. As I ran through the streets of Portland with the cool October air against my face, I felt alive. I passed a coffee shop I'd always wanted to try. I passed a park where an elderly couple was playing chess. I ran for 26 minutes. And when I got home, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: pride. A few days later, my mother texted me saying the family was getting together on Sunday to talk things out. I remembered the last time she'd called a family meeting. I was 18, and there had been an issue with my college savings. I ended up going to a state school, and my mother tried to comfort me by saying state schools were just as good. This time, I decided to prepare. I opened that spreadsheet again and read every entry from September 2019 to March 2024. Every payment for Lily, the rent, the car insurance, the tuition. The total had now reached $257,400. I printed the spreadsheet and took it with me to the family meeting. When I arrived, everyone was already there: Uncle Tom, Aunt Lucy, Cousin Jake, Lily, and my mother. I sat down and said, "I want to read something to all of you." Then I started reading the figures, month by month. Lily started crying somewhere around the 2021 entries. But I kept going. When I finished, I looked around the room and said, "I'm not asking for the money back. I just want all of you to know the truth." Then I told them 3 things. I will not be providing financial support to anyone in this family going forward. When someone tells me I only care about myself, or that I don't know how to love people, that conversation is over. And I'll call when I want to call. My mother looked at me and quietly said, "I didn't know." And for the first time, I believed her. It was heartbreaking and freeing. She apologized. Then I left the room. 3 months later, I'm sitting here looking out the window. Lily moved back in with my mother. A few days ago, my mother sent me a picture of a flower from her garden. The apartment is quiet now, but it's a kind of quiet I'm finally learning to appreciate. I've learned that being needed and being loved are not the same thing. And at last, I'm closing the account on a life that was never truly mine, ready to embrace the new chapter waiting for me.